Hey there, I'm Caitlin Alford, the owner of Lost Artistry Lash. In today's video, I'm going to run through common questions we see very often about fills. Question number 1, should I book my fill at 2 or 3 weeks? The question isn't simply you should book at 2 or you should book at 3 weeks. It totally depends on the client that you're working on. Some clients will need fills much sooner than others. I've actually seen people come in at 4 weeks and their lashes look beautiful. So you really have to assess each client at their fills to figure out when is the appropriate timing for them to see you. What I suggest and what I do within my own business is I get clients to come in at 2 weeks for their first appointment with me. So if I do their full set, I'll just say, we're gonna get you in at 2 weeks just in case you don't have a really good retention, just depending on their lifestyle. Maybe they do hot yoga, maybe they use a lot of oils, maybe they just have oily skin. Or honestly, a lot of times when I have clients with monolids, because the oils from their eyelid rubs against their lashes quite frequently, I do find that these clients need fills a little bit sooner. So it totally depends on the client that you're working on. So if I get them to come in at 2 weeks, I can really assess if they have great retention or if their retention is a little bit less than what I would expect for most of my clients. And then from there, you can make it the norm. You can book them again for 2 weeks or you can book them for 3 weeks. The main trick though is that you tell your clients what the expectations are for them, because some clients will automatically assume because their girlfriends are getting fills every 3 weeks and you're telling them they need a fill every 2 weeks, but they do hot yoga all the time, then you just need to really be honest with them and let them know why they are a little bit sooner than other clients. They really appreciate when you're honest with them. Next question, what do I do about grown out lashes? For grown out lashes, it's super important that we remove them before we begin our fill. Because if we leave those lashes on there, it can look really wonky. One eye can look a little bit longer than the other just because it has more grown out lashes, which are throwing off the overall aesthetic of your set. So make sure that you remove those lashes before you begin your standard fill. Next question. What if my client has a ton of lashes on one eye, but not the other? So I've drawn out this little example. You can clearly see that on this eye, the client has more lashes than this eye. So sometimes clients will have lots of lashes in one area and none in others. So let's say, just for this example, that our client has lots of lashes over here and a few throughout elsewhere, but only a few throughout on the side. So what we're gonna do is before we begin our set, meaning that we're gonna balance back and forth between eyes, we're gonna go in and make this eye look just like this eye so that we're having the same starting point. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my lashes in just this area in order to balance them out to make them look the same. And then from there, I can go ahead and fill in the rest of the gaps elsewhere. And when I'm doing that, I usually work eye to eye. So if I'm putting a lash on this side on the inner corner, I'm gonna put one on the exact same spot on the opposite eye and then move through your set like that. And it's nice to kind of spread them out as well. So if I'm putting a lash on the inner corner, and in this example, I don't need lashes over here. So when I'm working on a film, maybe I'll then put one here, here, and then in the middle of the two, and then go through that way until the set is complete. For our last question that we're gonna go through today, this is actually our most commonly asked question that we get on our Instagram and on our YouTube channel. But this is, how do I price my fills? I wish I could stand here and give you a perfect cut and dry answer on how I price my fills and then you could just take it and roll with it. But unfortunately, every city and town has their own unique price ranges and standard fill prices. So you really have to do your market research when you're figuring out the standard prices for your fills and your full sets. So what I suggest doing is looking around at other salons or at-home businesses that resemble yours and seeing what they charge in order to make your price list. The only thing that is very important is that you don't undercharge for your services. It may sound like a really good idea in the beginning, but what ends up happening is if you undercharge for your services, then not only does it devalue your service and people think that they're not going to get as good of a service when they come to see you, maybe you don't have good products or maybe your skill set isn't just quite there, but not only that, it's honestly turning into a race to the bottom, and eventually the pricing market will get so low that it won't actually be profitable for the artist. So we don't want to turn the industry into that. It's really important to price somewhere in the middle and make sure that you're making good money, but also make sure that your clients are getting a really good service. But I won't just end this section there. Let's quickly go through what my prices are, and then you can kind of use it as guidance and find the standard within your city, and you can use it just as like an example of a percentage-wise that I bump my prices up. Because again, it is different in every city, but it's nice to see what other people are charging to see how much more you should charge for each service, as well as which service you'll charge more for and which services you'll charge less for. So we charge classic is $110 for a full set, and then $55 for a fill. Then we have our hybrid set, which is $145 for a full set, $75 for a fill. Then we have our volume, which is $180 for a full set and $90 for a fill. And then our mega volume, which is $250 for a full set and then $125 for our fill price. So these will be our standard fill prices, but we also offer mini fills and this other fill that I call an in-between fill and full set. I don't actually know what to call it. I have no idea what anyone calls that, but it's important to still make a price for it. So for mini fills, I'm gonna work with about 25% coverage, so the client should have 75% retention. And then for those in-betweens, they might have about 25% retention, so you're covering about 75%. So for the mini fill, you should be charging somewhere between your fill and no money, so like 50% in between, depending on how much work you're doing. Or for your in-between, your fill and your full set service, you're gonna be charging somewhere between your fill and your full set. And I do find that, at least for me, the in-between price, I kind of will shimmy that price a little bit. So yes, it may be like for classics, let's say it's $70 for your in-between, then sometimes it'll be a little bit less, sometimes it'll be a little bit more, depending on how much time that eats up and how much work needs to be done. I personally do everything off of timing, but some people do it off of weeks as well. So let's just say you work your pricing off of weeks. Then for a mini fill, you may be looking at a fill every single week. And then for your standard fill, every 2 to 3 weeks. And then for your in-between fill, then it would be every 3 to 4 weeks. So it totally depends on how you want to work your pricing, but this is just a little bit of guidance on how to make your price list. This sums up our common fill questions video for today. And by all means, if this sparked any questions that you have about lash fills or just lashes in general, be sure to comment below. We absolutely love hearing your questions, but also if you comment, then we can definitely incorporate your questions into videos to come.